This is the E-commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the E-commerce Edge podcast. This is going to be a very special podcast episode because recently the co-founder and co-CEO of Vtex put out a post talking about how Vtex was going to be leaving the MACH Alliance and what the reasoning and thought process was behind that. His post blew up, and then my follow-up post around that absolutely blew up on LinkedIn. I posted about it. It went absolutely insane. It's had nearly 40,000 views in under a week, and there's been many other posts made about this decision by Vtex. It's certainly sent shockwaves throughout the MACH world. It's sent shockwaves throughout the commerce world. And it is my absolute pleasure to welcome Mariano GOMIDE de FARIA from Vtex. Welcome, Mariano.
It's an honor to be here, and congrats, you did the pronunciation of the name perfect. So it's an honor.
Thank you so much. And look, you are the founder and co-CEO of Vtex. Vtex, famously a commerce platform, a commerce enablement platform targeted at B2C, D2C, B2B Marketplace capability, order management capability. I'm a Vtex partner, and I'm a partner and consult on a number of different platforms, Vtex being one of them. But we're not here really to talk about the platform. We're here to talk about what I like to call the shot heard round the MACH world, which is this post that you made originally to LinkedIn. You also wrote a LinkedIn article, and then it was also, your article was posted to the Vtex blog. And when we look at what you basically said, your post was titled "The MACH Mirage: Why Composable Commerce Needs a Reality Check." You posted this on March the 25th. It went instantly viral. So tell me, maybe perhaps, when you referenced a research report that showed that over 50% of MACH projects or pure MACH projects end in project failure of some variety, and you gave some of the justifications or reasoning behind why you took this decision at the Vtex corporate level, but maybe just talk us through that initially.
Yeah, first of all, let's recognize that what MACH Alliance and the MACH concept did for the industry. So it brought us from a pretty kind of old-fashioned way of approaching monolithic to have a kind of a hype of modern approach. It's the same of the agile, the scrum. So it did pretty well for our industry. And when Kelly mentioned the alliance, when he and other guys from the industry started in June 2020, I believe, we were just there. Remembering that Vtex is already as a MACH standard since 2011. So we were like a multi-tenant, microservice, API-based since always. So when Kelly started that, we thought that, whoa, the world needs that. So we support them. We were like working with them. But past 5 years, the concept generate a extreme freedom that actually didn't result in the outcome that originally was expected. So when we mention like the headless thing, we don't mention that a retail should work with 30 softwares, that they need to work together, that you replicate data among the same data object through 20 software vendors, that you need to create a custom middleware to integrate the whole thing. Not saying nothing about the tech spaghetti that's pretty difficult to maintain, scale, and we cannot say that is elastic. So it's like the theory is great, but the practice and the pragmatic kind of empirical learnings that we have from that, it's not as good as the theory. And that's why. And now with the advent, Jason, of the AI world, what would happen in 5-10 years? Now it's going to happen in 2 years. So when we see the distance in between the future of MACH Alliance and the future of Vtex, I took the decision to say, look, we're not supporting these anymore, because what we support is projects coming down from 10 months in average to 1-2 months from front end and SAP integration, back end integration as well. We are seeing a world where projects for e-commerce, it is not a capex, it is full expenses, because there is no sense to amortize code that deprecates itself in 12 months. Actually, is operational fraud, in my opinion. So we need to stand for a higher exceptional standards to really defend retailers, the brand manufacturers, and distributors. So at the end of the day, just for giving one example, there are many platforms in the world. Only 3 of them became part of the club. So we see that that's not what we want. And the very, very kind of bold statements that we want to defend, it's not in the future of MACH. So that was the reason. And of course, I didn't expect buzz around it. But as you said, the buzz came, and I was really surprised on how many clients, how many providers. The founder of Content Stack, like the founder, the CEO of Versal, like many other CEOs and founders say, oh, yes, you have a point. So it's a lot of energy there that people just were not having the space to speak about it. And I believe MACH Alliance has a chance to learn from that. I spoke to Caspers. I commit myself to deliver to him a structured vision on what I see. Let's recognize that they did an amazing job, but actually the concept, I believe, needs to be rebuilt, right? Is imagine that if today we do have a internet alliance, make no sense, right? Makes no sense at all. So when you have a extreme freedom, you don't have a out of the box connected ecosystem. And that's what we stayed for. This is our mission, the backbone for connected commerce. And let's put like more flavor into this. E-commerce platforms and payments. All the e-commerce platforms now have out of the box integration with payments. There's no middle in between. E-commerce platforms and logistic companies. Vtex has more than 90 logistic companies out of the box integrated, more than 150 payments out of the box integrated. So there's no need for project. There's no need for code. There's no need for integration. There's no need for blueprint. There's no need for assessment. It's just a basic configuration. And I believe I see a future where the entire operation of e-commerce will be out of the box. So that was the main reason. Nothing against their mission, but is that the mission distancing themselves from our future, and we are protecting our future. I admire them a lot. And at the end of the day, the spark was when Kelly left the alliance, the one that I really trust inside. I said, look, the future will not be in the direction where Vtex is going.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Kelly, I'm actually at the Pipe 17 offsite in Mexico City today. That's actually where I am. And Kelly, actually, now that he's at Pipe 17, he's been there, I think, for three months now as the COO. He was actually the one that interviewed me this morning in the fireside chat at the Pipe 17 offsite. So just pure coincidence, that's how it happened. I went to dinner with the Pipe 17 team last night. I actually sat directly next to Kelly, and I've got a lot of respect for Kelly. I've always had a lot of respect for Kelly. I think he's actually, to be honest, of all the people in the MACH Alliance from the founding team, he was probably one of the most pragmatic. He was probably one of the most honest, and he was probably one of the people that had the deepest understanding of the history of the commerce world in that team. And I, like you, it came to me as a little bit of a shock when in June of 2023, he left his role within the alliance, and he's basically got, apart from maybe a slight external advisory capacity, he's got virtually nothing to do with the MACH Alliance anymore. And I think that once Kelly left, it's always been this way, but it accelerated after Kelly left. I got the sense that MACH became more of a religion than a badge of honor. That's how I perceived it as someone who's an architect in this industry, who's a consultant in this industry, someone who tries to meet my clients, my merchant clients, where they are, regardless of whether their full stack is MACH compliant or not. I have to meet them where they are. So if they have an ERP that's not MACH compliant, if they have a PIM system that's not MACH compliant, if they have some sort of backbone of their business that's not MACH compliant, it's not like I'm going to go in and I'm going to ask them to rip all this technology out so that they can have a MACH compliant full stack solution. And I think that was the thing that has always concerned me about the MACH Alliance, is that it is the zealotry, the fervor behind it. It doesn't leave a lot of room for merchants to slowly over time upgrade their components of their stack to a more composable type of architecture. Because I've always argued that commerce has always been composable. I've been in commerce for 25 years, and there has never been, in that time, there's never been a one-size-fits-all solution for any part of the commerce stack. But what I have seen evolve and what I have seen start to work is platforms coming out that are default integratable, that are default flexible, that are default configurable, that have the same level of functionality in their API endpoints, their administration UI, and their CSV upload capability. When those three are at parity, those are flexible systems. Those are easy to integrate systems. Those are easy to configure systems. And what I have also seen is the growth of a suite-based approach for packaged business capabilities. And I think Vtex is a primary example of this, right? With one platform, you get storefront hosted by you. It's headless on your own technology, but it's hosted by you. You don't have to go and build a custom storefront. I can have a lightweight PIM system. I can have a lightweight CMS. I can have B2B, B2C, and D2C capabilities. I can have marketplace selling capabilities. I have full end-to-end order management and orchestration capabilities as separate but natively pre-integrated packaged business capabilities. And this is where I see the industry heading across the board, is that where you used to have 15 components in your commerce stack and integrate them, we maybe now have to have 3 or 4 components in our commerce stack and then integrate those, because more and more suite-based applications are coming to market in a very comprehensive, solution-orientated way. Is that what you are seeing?
Yeah. Imagine the definition of freedom. Freedom, it's not the ability of compose. Freedom is the ability of decompose.
Yes.
If you have a kind of architecture that you compose, but that is done with a super glue called middleware, that's actually the system of records for many of the e-commerce operations, the middleware itself.
The iPaaS system.
Yes. And was not built to be the system of records. But because of the architecture, it's so much loose and ends. At the end of the day, you need that super glue. And you are so attached to that architecture that you fail. If any pieces of the architecture fails, you fail together. Because a composable world means that I can switch, for example, PIM in 1 week. I can switch my anti-fraud in just 1 click. I can switch my payment. And now there is a paradigm, mainly in the United States, that a company needs to have only one payment. That's not reasonable. There are many companies of payments that you can save 1-2% if you have multiple payments, because you have different scenarios. This is the platform that will secure the profitability, the revenue, the efficiency for this world. And let's recognize, Jason, the world changed. The interest rate in a 5% or 4.3 in the long term, that gives a corporate access on a 7-8%. That's completely different from a world that we were taking money at 0.3, 0.4%. On this new kind of world, there is a big urgent case for action. Companies are investing and spending millions in middleware and integrations, resources that should be driving innovation and growth, not just making system functions. The future of software world It is an out-of-the-box connected ecosystem, a middleware-free world. Business users, merchandisers, marketers, sales team, they navigate in like fragmented tools where they replicate data. It's not simple enough. So there is a one sentence from Leonardo da Vinci, and in quoting him, it's the simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And I really believe on that. Enterprises needs a simple approach. And that needs to be like the news needs to be spread. And I was thinking about this for the last 6 months. And I was saying, oh no, my goodness, I will be too much exposed on myself, of my company, and say, look, MACH is a powerful organization. So say, I don't want that. But at the end of the day, I burn it and I say, no, I can't take it anymore. I need to talk. And then like thousands of impressions and comments just supporting the idea that's enough. I believe it is time to discuss something new, something that comes from very basic foundations. For example, what is the association that will talk to the IFRS or the US GAAP accountant standard companies or protocols to just forbid the consideration of CapEx and capitalization on a middle or front-end code? Today, US GAAP and IFRS allows companies to go for a 5 years depreciation.
Yes.
That if someone is listening here that are practitioner knows that if you assemble a team of 4 developers and if they put a middleware together, it's going to cost, I don't know, maybe $500K, $1 million for the first year. And the second year will cost you the same 500 or 1 million. In the third year, you're going to probably lose 1 or 2 of those talents and another 2 will come and they're going to refactor in the code. That's what they do. So it's going to cost you another 1 million. So actually, software that costs you 1 million now will cost you 1 million forever. This is the concept of expense, not CapEx. So we need an association, open one, not a club, that state for the things that will make the retailers, brand manufacturers, and distributors coming from a 1-2% of profitability. That's the average of the S&P 500. If you take out Walmart, Target, and Amazon, if you put them in, the average is 5%. If you take them out, the average is 1.5, 2%. So that's too much in the edge. We need to bring the profitability again to something like 7 to 10%. So the industry can breathe. And we will not do that if the tech sector do not join as one and protect the customers that they serve. So missing this long-term alignment in between the clients and the tech sector that serve the commerce category in the world, B2C or B2B.
And what was your vision or your goal or your motivation? So you could have obviously left the MACH Alliance silently. You could have just said, look, we're not going to renew. We're through our membership, we're helping to fund this message of the MACH Alliance, and we simply don't want to do that anymore because we think it's no longer as relevant as it was maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So we're going to just quietly go into the night and we're going to de-emphasize MACH. We're going to remove MACH from our website. We're going to basically just move away from MACH-led messaging because we just don't think it's as relevant as maybe it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But you chose to be very public about it. You chose to be very brutally honest about it. You chose to kind of warts and all say, these are some of the challenges we've seen. These are some of the project risks that come along with strict adherence to MACH principles, regardless of practicality, regardless of cost, regardless of pragmatism. And you chose to say, look, we are going to come out very visibly against sort of almost religious fervor. We're going to be very vocal about this. So what was the thinking behind, we could do this really quietly, or we could do this very visibly, and we could even, as a Vtex partner, I got the email from you guys saying that, hey, you might have seen this article, you might have seen this post. We want to tell you what's behind this. And you were very transparent with partners around what you were doing. So we knew what you were doing. You were also very visible in market about this decision. What prompted you to be so transparent about this?
Staying silent would have left the room for speculation. We are only one of the 3 platforms inside. And if you don't have platforms enough in one association, that means that's a commercial instrument for just one. So people would ask, and to protect our point of view that the standards needs to change and controlling our narrative, the right choice was to make it public. And we believe that transparency is the right approach. And if it sparks the discussion, adds sparks, that only reinforces why this conversation really matters. Like when you were in the stage, it was only about theory. When we are in the dinners and more intimate forums, everybody talks the real things. And when these things starts to be disconnect, that's not a good sign, because we are guiding thousands of CIOs and CTOs and sometimes CEOs for something that they're going to buy. They are not tech experts. So they count in what the tech industry curate as a message to them. Mm-hmm. So for example, the cloud against the on-premise software was a big thing. The Salesforce came with the no software. I would love a world with a no middleware. The tag no software was famous. Maybe we could do the no middleware. It's nothing related to the Mac. It's just that the middleware, like the incentives behind the association or some companies in the sector are not aligned with the future of efficiency for retailers and brand manufacturers and distributors. If a project of a huge project that's today average implementation takes like maybe $3-4 million and takes maybe 12 months average. If that project comes to $100,000 and is executed in 45 days, how much we will save for retailers, brand manufacturers, and distributors? My guess, we are talking about more than $1 billion. That's a fraction of what the system integrators are doing. With that money, the retailers can become profitable. With that money, the retailers can invest in what they really matters for them. We couldn't stay quiet. It's like a frog in a pan. If somebody doesn't yell, the frog will die. And the frog means, on a figurative speech here, retailers, brand manufacturers, and distributors. It's all over the news. They're closing stores. They are not operating well. And they will not reinvent themselves. Should be ourselves, leading an industry, inviting other CEOs of other tech vendors, and defining that. For example, one statement that it cost the entire IT department, including labor, infrastructure, any cost of IT related should be below 3%. And today is around 8% on the revenue. And that means that we need to do things differently. That was the reason. I am not in this business. Vtex has 25 years old. We serve 2.4 thousand companies in 46 countries. Colgate Palmolive, Samsung, Whirlpool, KitchenAid, Carrefour, Ocean, H&M, many of them. We are here for the long term. So don't take us or underestimate our willingness to protect the industry that we represent. So at the end of the day, I thought a lot, okay? I was a little bit coward. That was my mistake. For 6 months, 8 months that I was burning. And to the moment that I say, no, not anymore. And then I wrote the article, and I chose to release during Shop Talk to spark the conversation. And I believe the conversation is pretty productive. Our world was just cash calling. Our industry were just cash calling the retailers and the brand manufacturers. We need to change, and we need to have serious grown-up conversations on that.
I couldn't agree more. And I've been advocating for these kind of hard conversations as long as I've been in this business. And I think anybody who can contribute to this conversation meaningfully and prompt a deeper inspection and a deeper introspection by the broader industry and trying to bring down IT costs, of which commerce is a significant portion of that nowadays, especially. It's not just the hard IT costs of ERP and networking and desktop systems. It's now commerce is an ever increasing percentage of overall IT costs for business. And I think we, as leaders in our industry and as people who are visible in our industry, we have a duty to try to help businesses bring down those costs to make it more accessible to more brands. That's the reality.
Yeah, and not only cost, Jason. I can give an example of one client of Vtex that were burning their post-seasonal products. They were burning on 90% discount on TJ Maxx and TK Maxx, okay? 90% discount, you lose a lot of money. So we came to them and say, look, instead of selling $70 million for this kind of channel, why not you create a marketplace integration with a Romanian Fashion Days? That's a huge marketplace. They are big admirers. Romanians are big admirers of your brand, and you don't have your brand there. And if you discount from maybe 60%, you will win money instead of losing money. And you're going to keep a channel open to serve the ones that are fans of your brand. And the answer was, oh my goodness, no, I don't have payment. I don't have logistics. I don't have it. And so you don't need anything. Vtex has everything out of the box. In just one day, we popped an integration, a store in Romania, and we can connect these to of course, in the last 5 days, this crazy thing on tariffs. There's only one thing after all of these. The companies need to dilute their risk into channels. So they will need a very out-of-the-box composable things for them to say, without CapEx, to test new channels, new markets, to maximize margin. And it's not anymore a planning thing. It's a survival. Like, there is one thing really good on what is happening. Companies are pushing the red button. And the layers of management that manages the practitioners, the companies will review that art short. And we are on the tip of the iceberg of what will come next. Because now the modern or bold CIOs and CTOs and CEOs, they're not into these concepts. What they care is about business outcomes. How can I sell more? And how can I sell in a profitable way? And that's what matters. And I believe Vtex is really well positioned to capture these. There are many other platforms around. I can say that we are friends of many of the owners and CEOs of the other platforms, but we always will speak the truth. And there's something that we put in our declaration of future. That's our kind of Bible inside Vtex. We put ourselves at risk for the success of our customers. And I was not fulfilling this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy by not saying nothing. Of course, I receive a lot of criticism from big names in the industry. And I ask for apologize for them, but say, look, you know myself. And you knew that I needed to do this. And many of them, after listen and reflecting a little bit, they join in the original post and say, I agree with that. So let's use this energy to stay for something. I was thinking to write a manifesto, open one, put in a manifesto platform and ask people, say, what do you think about it? Say, let's change IFRS and US GAAP standards that any code for middleware integration or front end cannot be recognized as CapEx. Let's influence the market that says that, or investors or PEs, that 3% is the cap of what a retailer or brand manufacturer can spend in technology. And like in the world where equity is valued on 30 times the revenue of a company, that's the world that we were living 3 years ago.
In the ZERP era.
Yep. In that world, that's okay. Because any unknown that actually burns 10% of the company can just be paid on the breakthrough if the breakthrough happens. Going forward in time, 5 years, that world doesn't exist anymore. The multiples are more in a 4 or 5 times, 6 times. Retailers, the multiples are in 1 or 2. So that world just vanished. You cannot create technology. What's the point of it? Retailers needs to use what is available and switch vendors if you have a better outcome. But at the end of the day, the ability of testing, I foresee a CIO and CTO that are more proud of testing than proud of building. I am seeing companies that are proud of having a 30, 40 people IT department just with top names controlling vendors that providing them the ability of switch. Instead of having the CIOs with 500 developers coming out of Ukraine or Mexico or India, that you need to tell them what to do. Imagine if you drive your own car and you will build it. That's how the concept of freedom came to the extreme. People were building what one mind wanted. That's not efficient. That's just not efficient.
And where do you think this leaves the MACH Alliance? Correct me if I'm wrong. The two remaining e-com platform vendors that remain in the MACH Alliance, BigCommerce and Commerce Tools. So they're the foundational vendors that remain. There are some other platforms that aren't pure e-commerce platforms that also are in the alliance. What do you think the future, if you had to predict, and now this is of course asking you to pull out a crystal ball and you don't know, but if you had to predict what you think the future looks like for the MACH Alliance with you leaving, what do you think that looks like? And what do you realistically think it looks like? And then secondarily, what would you prefer it to look like if you had a choice?
I'm not saying about MACH, but I'm going to quote the associations overall. And I'm including the Society of Architects, I'm including NRF, I'm going to include MACH.
NAW.
Many of them. They are fulfilled with people that has no practicing
experience. That's the problem.
So they are far away from the field. And
they're disconnected, right? They're disconnected.
And they are proud of the title of being inside the alliance or the association. So I foresee something new will come. And that new thing to come will not be owned by someone, will not be a marketing instrument. It's going to be something that will represent retailers, brand manufacturers, and distributors on the practitioner way. So standards of architecture will come from these new things, not from the vendors. They are biased. If I'm talking to you, I am biased. I am the owner of Vtex. I will defend my point.
Of course.
But to defend the profitability of the industry, a broad kind of conversation should emerge where we unite those associations and say, guys, you are representing an industry that is dying. Let's recognize this first. Let's push together the red button. Let's reinvent, recreate our industries. The United States has an opportunity. Incredible brands of the vast kind of categories of the American retails. They are well known in the world. And some brands doesn't even explore this kind of brand power because they were so focused in the channel that were like the cash cow. The US were growing like 2%, 3% over the last 15 years. You don't need to reinvent yourself just to survive, but now you do. I foresee a world where new standards will arise. I foresee a world where retailers, brand manufacturers, and distributors will operate with 50% of their personnel that they have today. So if you are running with 1,000 people, your operation, the one that will take your jobs will be the one that operates with a 500. So the retailers, the brand manufacturers, they need to cut on the flash to understand how to leverage the AI world, not romantically, but say putting like goals and say, okay, we're going to go for that. What's the future of the marketing department inside brand manufacturing? What's the future of EDI? Punch out? Really? 2025 with the LLM translating integrations over on the fly? We are still talking that companies paying like hundreds of millions to ADIs and punch outs. This just need to go. Last week, Jason, and that was like boom for me. I was with a CEO of a company, big one. 50% of the IT budget has only one invoice, IBM mainframe. And that invoice is $120 million a year. Half of the budget is to sustain something that I don't need to state that IBM mainframe is old and it's not ready for the future. And I asked them, say, let's get rid of it. Oh, it's too complex because the data is replicated through many channels, many softwares. This company alone has three OMSs. This company alone has 4 e-commerce platforms. Because every single silo of every single business kind of area bought the idea of the freedom and say, I want my software. I want the software that I can call mine. That gives you power. But it's an unsustainable power and was made up by the CapEx because you take like a $10 million investment and you just put $2 million in the first year because you can amortize in
over 5 years.
But now, it's not coincidence. Why these concepts failing? Because it's reaching the 5 years. And now that the amortization comes in stack, there's no cash more. Even if you do have the cash, you can't. It's economically.
Because now it drops into OpEx and you can't justify it.
Yes. So this world is about to change, not because of a group of people that's defending a concept. And that's my only kind of point of view that I disagree with the immediate answer from everybody that advocates to MACH Alliance is that the point of view that, oh no, the MACH is working. The concept of MACH and MACH Alliance is working. What is not working is that the customers are using in a bad way. So the problem is the execution, not the alliance, not the concept. Look, if you're a cigar company and if you're a cigar association, better you be responsible for the communication, what bad can be the outcomes of the usage of your concept. On these, I don't agree at all. So I believe they need to step forward and go into the projects and state clear mandate on their providers to bring the cost down. But it's going to be very difficult because all the ones leading is the ones that benefit from it. I want to collaborate. I told Casper that I will send him in the first place. The first person that will receive my structure kind of vision will be Casper. So I commit to him and I will send him. But I not only to him, I will send it to the CEO of NRF. I will send you to the CEO of the Society of Architects. And after they have the chance of digest, I will make it public. So people at least say, okay, there is a world there. And I believe that's the future. If they embrace the new, and I hope they do it, not only them, but NRF and many others, maybe we can save the industry. If there's a non kind of organized way to communicate the best practice, it's almost impossible for you sitting in a CTO, CDO, or CIO or CEO position on a distributor, brand manufacturer, or retail, that you're going to access a blog or a book or article that will say, do that, you're going to be okay. Too much information, too much noise, too many things. And that creates uncertainty in the market. It's a moment for the companies to unite them, take the ego out, and understand that we are here for the long term, discuss these as adults, and bring like crystal transparent kind of suggestions for the industry. Like the day that NRF stops bringing journalists to interview CEOs is the day that NRF will actually see the real world needs. It's not about anymore a show off. That's why those events is just a kind of it's provider people to provide the people, because the users, they're fed of the commercial thing.
Yeah, it's certainly what I call a crucible moment for our industry. There's no question about that. Luckily, I do see a way through. I do see a way out. I think that the B2B e-commerce space in particular is going to see massive, I've called this for a couple of years now, that I think there's going to be massive consolidation in the B2B e-commerce space over the next 5. It's going to be a bloodbath, actually, platform vendors.
Fully agree.
So in the B2C and D2C world, that battle's been won. It's pretty much Shopify and WooCommerce and everybody else. But in the B2B world, there's still probably 30 very well-known, very popular B2B-focused e-commerce platforms that have tremendous feature and function overlap. That will not persist. Not all of them will survive. Not all of them will find product market fit. Not all of them will be able to sufficiently differentiate themselves from the others to survive. We're also seeing already consolidation in the B2B specific SI space. We saw Zaylab acquire Trellis. We're going to see more of that because there's not as much capability. There's not as much depth of bench. There's not as many people that are specialists in B2B to go around. So there's a lot of B2C and D2C agencies and SIs that want to establish a B2B practice, and there's just not the talent out there to be able to do it. So I think consolidation is going to be incredible over the next 5 years. And it's my hope that the ones that ultimately do survive, find product market fit, that one of the reasons that they win is because they wholesale bring the price of technology and access to technology down dramatically for the B2B world. Because if it's bad for B2C and D2C, it's 10 times worse in the B2B world because the margins are even slimmer in B2B than they are in B2C and D2C.
Yeah. My 2 comments on the B2B impact, fully agree with you. It's going to be a huge consolidation for the next 5 years. The reason is the users, the reps, the sales reps, the field, the call centers, even the customers, they are fed up with the blue screen of SAP. They just cannot take it anymore. It's just now cultural kind of aversion to that. So with a new layer that comes above, will also spark the omni-channel for B2B. So today, you do have your tier 1 customers on EDI, you do have your tier 2 on email and punch out, and you have your tier 3 on call center. And then you have a great idea. You create a self-assessment portal, but you didn't just agree with the clients that they're going to get rid of the ADI, that get rid of the punch out, the email, and it's pointless. So
Slack, WhatsApp, Teams.
WhatsApp, SMS.
Yes.
What's going to happen? The reinvention of B2B will come when the industries realize that they have more power to sell than the structure of sales that they do have today. And that will happen when a front end just cover all the channels and make it, say, the inventory available for anyone who buys at the highest price. So that's reinvention in the B2C came maybe 12 years ago.
Yes.
So I'm seeing the B2B industry now talking about. And with all these kind of unpredictable things that, for lucky, everything, you can find good things in bad scenarios.
You can find the silver lining.
You can find. We cannot say that what's happening is a good thing, but we can find the good things on it. That was a wake-up call for the B2B industry to say, oops, I need to diversify my channel. And the only way you can do that, if you go with the blue screen to do it, that's a $5 million project and will take you 12 to 18 months.
Channel.
Per channel. Yes. I believe in 300,000, 4 months implementation, and multiple channels out of the box, including cross countries. That's a new reality. So that's where I believe we are as Vtex well positioned. We serve with the same infrastructure, the B2C and the B2B. So the B2B have the same capability of recommendation, personalization, catalog, web stores, apps, call center operating, rep sales apps. So there are like literally a kind of a sample of things that you can test and put available without CapEx. So I am with you. I believe the industry, the margins of the industry are just shrinking and shrinking. And I wrote an article called MCLB. It's in the LinkedIn if anyone wants to check. It's the master plan of China of taking the world. They take before the manufacturer, and then they took the logistics, and then they took the channels like Shein, like TikTok, like Temu. The next one is gonna be the brands. They're gonna take the brands. And I wrote about these on the LinkedIn and on this article, and bringing cases like, for example, the taxi black company, the black company taxi that runs London. It's a Chinese manufacturer. Volvo, it's a Chinese company. And you go over and over, and you're gonna see that Chinese companies are taking over the world by the brands now. So if the B2B industry of the United States, mainly the distributors, we are talking about an industry of 250,000 companies. This country that we are, the heart is the distribution.
Yes.
So if the distribution channel doesn't evolve, we can face the destiny of being in the hands of Chinese brands. So I believe people will address this brutal fact with the head kind of stand up and with the serious that requires. B2B, it's going to be a hot topic for e-commerce maybe for the next 5-10 years, even more than the B2C.
Wow. This has been a fantastic conversation. I've really appreciated your thoughts, your insights, your experience. You've been doing this for as long as I have. You've been in this industry as long as I have, over 25 years. And there's not many of us that can say that. There's not many of us that can claim that long working in this industry and seeing the patterns emerge over that time and seeing hopefully what will be a new pattern, a better pattern, something that will be more appropriate for brands, businesses, brand owners, manufacturers, distributors, and retailers. It's been super enlightening for me. You've had a very open kimono with me today, and I appreciate it. Appreciate your honesty, your willingness to share from your learnings, because I think businesses out there, brands out there, they need to know that there is an alternative. They need to know that they don't need to be spending between 8 and 12% on IT costs. They need to know that commerce doesn't need to cost them 6% of the 3 to 6% of their IT budget. They need to know that there are options out there. They need to know that there are packaged business capabilities and suite-based platforms out there that can cover 3, 4, 5 bases in their business from a technical perspective, pre-integrated, out of the box, ready to use within mere months of establishing them in the business. And I really appreciate you bringing that to light. I appreciate you shining the light on this. And as we do come down to the end of our time together, I would like to turn the microphone over to you. I would like you to let you ask me one question, any question you like. It can be personal or professional. So, Mr. Mariano GOMIDE de FARIA from Vtex, what is your question for me today?
It's personal. If you allow me, I was reading about you before this recording. And I was shocked that you started this show 9 years ago, and it's the episode, I believe, 510 or something, right?
Yes.
And sometimes the difference in between a stillborn or a persistent is just if you access success, history will tell that you were a persistent, resilient guy. But if you fail, people will say that you were a stillborn. And need to take a lot at risk with family, personal costs, to just go for something that you believe and you know that somehow in the future that will become something. So what is this thing that gives you power, the force to keep going on the same direction? Now that podcast just exploded in the world, everybody can say, oh, Jason was a visionary. But 9 years ago was absolutely nothing. So what is that power, the force that gives you the strength to just go forward?
Probably one of the best questions I've been asked on this podcast, to be honest. There's two primary things that keep me going, particularly with content, with the podcast and with all the other content that I produce I spend about 8 to 10 hours a week on content. And that's not a major income stream for me. That's a passion project for me. And the two biggest motivations for me to start the podcast in the first place persist until this day. One is, when I first started, I didn't have a very big personal brand. I wasn't as well known as I am now. And so if I slid into someone's DMs like you and I said, hey, Mariano, I'd love to, it looks like we work in the same industry. It looks like we've got similar experiences. I would like to talk shop with you. Can I have 15 minutes of your time for a virtual coffee? 9 times out of 10, maybe 99% of the time, you're going to say no because you think I'm trying to sell you something. And most of the time you would be right, because most of the people that are going to slide into your DMs are trying to sell you something. So for me, when I first started out, a podcast was a way to be able to have conversations with people smarter than me on topics that I know very little about, and to be able to have these really deep, meaningful discussions over a long period of time where we can actually share knowledge, and we can not just share it with each other, but we can share it with the wider world. And therefore, I am able to give people who may not have any other platform to share their knowledge with the world a platform to do. The second thing that caused me to want to do this is that this industry has treated me super well. It has given me a lifestyle I could have only dreamed of 25 years ago when I entered this industry. And I'm immensely grateful to this industry for that lifestyle and for the opportunities it's given me. And many of my closest personal friends now originated as professional friends or colleagues from the industry. So I owe a lot of my life and my lifestyle to this industry. And so the podcast is my love letter back to the industry, and a thank you and a way to send the ladder back down again in gratitude for what the industry has given me. The final thing that wasn't even on my radar back when I started the podcast, but has turned out to be a happy side benefit of the podcast in hindsight. Because when I started my podcast, I didn't have my own consultancy. I didn't have my own business. I was working actually inside of a retailer. So it wasn't like I was thinking, oh, what is the business outcome that can come from this? But it is certainly, now that I do have my own consultancy, it has certainly helped to establish credibility for me in what I know and what my experience is, because people can actually hear me speak. They can hear me having these conversations, and they can understand what I know before they ever meet me in person or before they ever reach out. Oh, hey, Jason. Probably greater than 80% of the time when someone reaches out to me to become a potential client, they go, oh, I've been following you on LinkedIn for a year, or I've been listening to your podcast for 2 years, or, oh, hey, I saw you speak at this conference, or they feel like they know me before they ever meet me. And so that makes that sales process just so much easier, because I don't have to go through and send them a deck, and I don't have to explain who I am. They already know. And so really all they're trying to find out usually when they reach out to me is, are you the same guy, if I work with you, that I see on the podcast that I hear speaking, are you the same guy? And it's a very easy conversation to have. So that's a happy side benefit of being someone who's been I'm like you. I couldn't tell a lie to save me. I am so brutally honest at all times, sometimes to my detriment. It is the only way I know how to be.
Yeah.
And it's just part and parcel of my DNA. And so I think people can tell that through my content, that I don't pull punches, I don't bullshit, I don't tell lies, I call a spade. And I think people respect that. And when they want to disrupt themselves before the market disrupts them, they want someone like me in their corner. They want to work with somebody like me. So that's a happy side benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. So congrats, man. It's really amazing. I have some boxes that I put people in, and there one box that is pretty special that I'm gonna put you in is that the people that don't fear the judgment on their reputation to do what they think it's what they need to do. So it's not because people will judge you that you not say something. And that's the box that I'm gonna put you. So thank you. Thank you for your job. Thank you for it was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to speak to you again soon. Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.